Hey, guys.
Hey, guys, Romeos.
How are we doing today?
Very good.
Wonderbar.
Aki?
I cannot think of a better way to have a nice Wednesday.
So we are in World Romeo headquarters.
World Romeo headquarters.
And we're doing our thing, the retired old men expressing opinions. Yes.
Absolutely. And we want our viewers, we really are grateful to them for tuning in, and we want them to subscribe and to like and to comment.
Absolutely. We would love that. So let's move on.
A change of face.
Hey, Pat. Sorry.
Since you guys are feeling
Philip
so...
and Ian, this is for you.
Yeah, so... Since you guys are feeling so kind, gentle, and nice, I'd like to suggest that we talk about whether or not prostitution should be legalized.
Okay.
Wow.
Here we go into the pit.
Okay. Well, we're all kind of whores in our own ways.
Speak for yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
For yourself.
This side of the table, there's some decorum.
We're all somebody's whore.
Exactly.
Well, since you guys are so strongly opinionated on the topic, Dominic, why don't you get us started?
Well, being a capitalist, I think, if there's an
Being
opportunity,
a capitalist.
if there's an opportunity to tax service, why not? Why not?
You're looking for taxation?
So that's your justification?
No,
Oh, okay.
it's a little more profound than that because it already is, but it's all under the table.
So it's not legalized if it's under the table.
Well, Grindr and all these things or whatever.
Well, that's just an app to meet people.
Yeah, well, you know what it is for. It's to hook up.
How do you
but
know
that's
that,
not
Dominic? Why are you so up to date on Grindr?
No, I'm just saying. I don't know what the hell they are, but anyways.
Well, it seems you do know.
No, but you go on these Craigslist and whatever.
Wow, he's got all of them.
I thought Craigslist was for merchandise
Well, I don't know. I mean,
and housekeeping services.
And assassins.
Oh, yeah, right.
these massage parlors all over the place. It's all legal.
The rub and tug places.
Exactly. So might as well just tax it, and get revenues.
So your story has a happy ending.
Well, it does. Look, you're not going to stop it. The same way we did it with marijuana.
You're on a roll. Let him go. Let Pat go.
Now you're talking my language. So it's always existed.
Yeah,
It's the world's oldest profession.
You're never going to stop it.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Marijuana was the same thing. So now we sell it legally. And
It's like pot. It's like
Yeah,
marijuana.
exactly.
Right? Everyone does it,
Yeah.
or at least a lot of people do it. So at a certain point, you may as well get the tax revenue,
Yeah.
and at the same time provide some service around it with respect to health services and
Exactly.
cleanliness and
Exactly.
and then there's also the human trafficking aspect of the pimping, right? So if you can get rid of that whole aspect of human trafficking, pimping, bringing young girls from Eastern Europe or Asia into places for prostitution, having prostitution rings, having criminal gangs run it. If you can kind of get that crap out of it and make it cleaner.
So it's interesting. So clearly from your comments, you think that legalizing prostitution
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing.
would put a stop to a lot of these.
Would help.
It would help.
Yeah, it would help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing's
I
gonna stop it.
don't know how much of an impact it would have.
Well, look, it's the same thing with pot, legalized pot in Canada, right? They were saying 30-40% of the pot that's sold is still being sold through dealers and not going through government run offices. So there's still going to be 30-40%.
So through unaccredited dealers,
correct,
as opposed to the authorized
black
or
market.
accredited.
Exactly. So like you said, through the black market. So even if it's the same thing on the prostitution side, you can argue that 60 to 70% is now seeing the light of day, as it were, and not being forced into prostitution by a pimp, by gangs, and so on. So human trafficking and prostitution kind of are linked together. If a woman decides by herself, hey, this is how I'm going to make money, OnlyFans, or doing something, actually doing the prostitution herself, and that's a decision she makes on her own, or he makes on his own, that's fine. It's when you're forced into it because you're picked up at a train station or whatever as you're coming into the country and basically kidnapped and forced into prostitution, which does happen. That's the part that I'm trying.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree that it would have a huge impact on those illicit activities.
I think it.
I
think
for
it
the
would.
record, I'm in favor of legalizing prostitution, but for
Why are you in favor of it then? Because those are my reasons. What would be your reasons?
because I hate hypocrisy And it's one of those areas where I find there's so much hypocrisy in society and on the part of governments. To Dominic's comment, or previous comments, it's an activity that's always existed. It will always exist. And I think that governments can provide a safer environment for the people who are involved in the field of prostitution. I think it also legitimizes an activity that we shouldn't frown upon. So I think that prostitution actually plays an important role in society. And I don't see why we have passed judgment.
Well, it's the morality.
But it's hypocrisy is what it is.
Of course, but that's the judgment part is
But
the morality, right?
But it's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
But
Pure and simple.
would you let the government manage this, or would you let entrepreneurs do it within regulations set by the government?
It's the second.
So
Second,
yeah,
yeah,
for
me
me
too.
it would be the second, not government. I don't want government managing
Exactly.
much.
Okay, good.
Aki, how about you?
I'll let him finish.
And in many, if not most jurisdictions,
Unionize. Sorry.
because there's an involvement, or there should be an involvement from the health sector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't completely disassociate it
Thank you.
from government
Thank you.
regulation.
Exactly.
That's what I mean. Government regulations, but entrepreneurs.
So, look, the reality is that the way it's set up right now, it's it could be really horrible for a lot of women, a lot of people, that are in this, that are doing it.
And men.
We see it in parts of our cities.
Girls and boys.
And then, of
Not
course, all the
women.
other consequences that are associated with it. So it is really, it's not a good setup right now. If we look at the European model, I think, and I'm not an expert, but if we look at Holland, and we look at in those societies where they've legalized it,
Belgium.
and they've put in place, good, health practices and standards.
Red light districts.
Right. I think it's a much more, effective activity where people are not necessarily getting hurt or abused the way they are in places where it's not
Absolutely.
regulated.
It's safe.
So I think, again,
Safer.
it's safer.
Well, it's safe. I was in Belgium in the red light district.
Right.
It's like a shopping mall.
Okay, but let's not be naive. The activity is not limited to the district that's established.
Oh, absolutely.
Anymore, it's all online now. So
Well, that's
Yeah.
it. But at least, so listen, you're not going to get 100% of anything.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
It's just a matter of cleaning up.
So I think
most of it,
we all
right?
agree that legalizing it creates a safer environment for all participants.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the sex trade workers, as they call it,
Yes.
right? Let's
Yes.
not call them the hoes.
No, let's not.
Those are farming implements.
The unhoused, sex trade workers, all these words that we got to put around now to make things better. It's like, fuck. Anyway.
Okay. So we're talking about sex trade workers. And
We're talking about hoes, yes.
Right? We're talking about sex trade workers.
Prostitutes.
Prostitutes. But the issue is, I think, in terms of good practice, I think this is the best way to go.
What's good practice?
Good practice is having, as we said, legalizing prostitution.
Okay.
And having some sort of oversight and some sort of, a fair playing field.
A fair?
Fair
Did you
playing
say
field.
What do you mean?
You want to
what do
hold
you
my
mean
hand? You want to touch my hand? You
Actually,
can't.
what do you mean by
Buy me
fair
lunch
playing
first.
field?
Well, I mean, I go back to the real issue for me is the health standards. So that there's good habits and good practice in that sense.
what about
Okay.
Okay. You're going to make sure everything's clean?
Well, again, this is what they do.
What do you have, a
They
dip-
do it. They do it.
You put a
they do it in
dipstick in
Europe.
there, or what
They
do you
do
do?
it in Europe. Oh well, okay. If you want to get personal, how much on-site inspection do you want?
You do the smell test.
Oh, that's,
well, there.
This is a fish market. Let's get out of here.
this is. We're trying to pull them out of the ditch. We are trying. We always try to pull them out of the ditch, but it's always a work in progress.
Impossible.
Oh my God! Pulling Noran out of the
Let
ditch.
me go on a different tangent. What should be the age limit of the prostitute or this?
When you say age limit,
What are
you're
you
talking
talking-
about the
are
up
you
end, the
seriously
upper end,
putting that out
or
there?
the lower end?
The lower,
85.
the lower,
Nothing over 85, okay?
the lower.
Yeah.
Because, obviously we always think of 18 as being
18 is a
adults.
kid, man. It's
I think so too.
So what, 21? I mean,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think-
Okay.
Again, I don't get it. You have to have some degree of consistency.
Yeah.
I don't get where at 18 years old, you're old enough to vote, and in some places you're not old enough to drink
drink.
alcohol.
I agree with
or
that.
you're not allowed to. Sorry, if 18 is the age of adulthood, then let's be consistent.
yeah.
Okay.
Or make it 21 and make it 21 for everything.
Whatever the number is,
Yeah, pick a
whether
number.
it's 18, 19, or 21, I don't care.
Yeah, it
But,
depends on.
But be consistent.
But Pat, between voting and being a prostitute, it's a different activity.
Some people around this table might disagree with that analogy.
Okay.
That is so true.
It's like,
Like that's a very
Okay,
good
and
point.
driving a vehicle is a different activity, and
that's 16 years old.
And consuming alcohol is a different activity.
I know.
My point is simply this,
Yeah,
Dominic.
I know.
If we have chosen as a society 18 as the age at which we feel people are responsible enough to be autonomous from their parents' decision making and to make life choices of their own, then let's be consistent.
Yeah,
That's
a
all
fair-
I'm saying.
it's very obvious, not obvious, logical what you're saying.
You know what?
Just
I don't know.
18 is,
I don't know. I agree. The theory of it is as Pat described it, but the reality is when you look at the issues at hand and you look at what this entails for a person. I would keep an open mind, like we do it around alcohol consumption in some jurisdictions where it's 21 years old.
Yeah.
The official age of adulthood is 18, but we made this decision.
Yeah, the U.S. mostly.
Yeah, we made this
is
decision
21.
to put this restriction of 21 years old.
Yeah.
For certain reasons, social reasons.
And you can't rent a car till you're 25.
Exactly. So we've already played with this. So I think in this instance, I would keep an open
Well,
mind.
car rental is a different issue,
Yeah.
driven by insurance companies.
Credit card.
Yeah, but
So
again, it's
I'm
just-
saying
it's-
governments
it's
should be
rules.
consistent. To me, it's
Okay, Pat.
a lack of logic or rational thinking.
Yeah, but to his point, it's a different activity.
It
So
doesn't
you wanna-
matter. My point is simply this. If governments have decided that there's an age at which children become adults
Yeah, 30.
and are able to make decisions
Man,
independent of what their parents' choices would be for them.
I get it. I understand your logic.
okay,
It's
Pat,
just
can I ask you a question differently? Do you think 18 is the right age to be identified as an adult?
No, I don't.
Okay.
okay. So I think we all agree.
Okay, that's it. Okay, that's it.
So yeah, from a logic perspective, you're 100%. Yes, pick an age, but 18 doesn't seem to be the right age. as
No,
far-
it wasn't for me. I mean, at 18.
Yeah, I mean, we're kids at 18. Like to be able to make life decisions at 18.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
You know,
all I'm
tattoos,
saying is be
Yeah,
consistent.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Be consistent.
Okay, fair. So let's say we're
So
consistent.
for me,
But what's
whatever
that age?
whatever adult age is,
Okay, fine.
then
That's the age.
that's the age, the entry level, if you will. And let's not kid ourselves. It's happening with 12 and 13-year-olds.
Well, that's a
and,
whole other-
and will continue to.
Well, yeah.
Regardless of
Well, there's
whether or
countries
not
where
it's
that's
legalized.
legal. There's countries where they get married at that age. So,
Yep.
you go to Afghanistan
Yeah.
and you're going to have some 45, 50-year-old getting married to a 12-year-old.
Yep.
Or an 8-year-old or something because that's what the clan decided and that's what they're doing.
I thought you were describing the U.S., but okay.
That's Alabama, Mississippi, West Virginia. But then they'll be cousins. Sorry, guys.
That's what you
Stop
call
the hate mail.
Okay.
That's what you call an ex-wife there.
Nice.
Yeah. So okay. So let's say 21 is a better age in terms of maturity to make these decisions. But I think we all agree that it's a good idea to legalize this thing because it's happening anywhere anyway. And with things like the online things like OnlyFans and all the porn sites, Pornhub, and all of the things that you can get online with real time face to face communication, as it were, where you don't have to be in front of the person physically, but you are through a screen. I mean, they're making tons of money with this stuff, right? So there's definitely a market for it, and as long as this money can be taxed and there's revenue that can help go back into the system in terms of services, and with services, healthcare services that are brought into this type
Employment
of service.
insurance.
Employment insurance, what else? Unionization,
Why not?
all of this good stuff.
Maternity leave.
Maternity,
Listen,
All good.
not for the men. Not for the men.
if you legitimize a profession, then
All of that goes with it.
of course.
Yeah. Look, I think, you got to do that, and I think society would be a winner out of this.
So why are we not doing it as a society?
Well, so let's
Tacitly
before
we have.
So what
Officially,
if any downsides are there to legalizing prostitution,
What are the downsides?
if any?
I don't.
Good question.
Well, no, I think the obvious one is that society is embracing a practice
From a morality perspective,
a
some
practice
people.
a practice that probably is objectifies women.
Why?
Why? It's
Men
not
can also
just
be
women. We're
prostitutes.
talking
Well,
about men and women.
objectifies.
I think
You can have gigolos.
I think one of the downside is probably little girls or young girls, let's say 12, 13, 14, looking at this as a possibility
Yeah.
when they get
It's a career choice.
to be 18. You see that?
So there are 12 and 13-year-olds today
yeah.
who are thinking to themselves, this is probably the path I should follow.
But now it's legal.
Not a problem with it.
Well,
I think the 12 and 13-year-olds who were thinking about it when it's illegal will likely be thinking about it when it's legal. I don't see what the difference
I
is.
don't know. It just makes it.
It validates it, like
Yeah.
unquestionable
Yeah.
validation of
Makes
it.
the
And
path
is
easier.
that the kind of message you want to be sending as a
It makes
society
the
to young
path
girls?
easier.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't want government to be the keepers. I don't want them to be the morality police for all of society.
No,
I think it starts in the home.
Yeah.
I agree.
And if you're not instilling certain values in your kids from a young age, then
I know,
all
but it
bets
makes,
are off. What can I tell you?
But as a concerned parent, your job becomes harder if society has embraced this and has opened up the doors to this.
no bullshit. Look at Belgium. Look at Europe. I mean, they've already done that. What is everyone turning out to be a whore?
No, of course not, yeah.
So come
Yeah.
on. Let's get past this patriarchal, archaical kind of idea that, oh my God, if you open this door, everyone's gonna flood into it. No, people have morality. Certain people will be drawn to this, but to Pat's point, it's not going to change anything. Humans are humans. The people that are going to be drawn to that are people that are going to be
Okay,
drawn
so
to that.
we dismiss that with that
I
argument.
don't know. Like,
I think so.
Okay. So,
Well, it's.
has pot consumption increased dramatically as a result of it being legalized in certain jurisdictions?
Only in our age group.
Yeah, the geezers.
Yeah, the geezers who didn't know where to find a dealer
Yeah.
before, now they can go and get it. Because they'd have to ask their teenage kids to find some
It's
for them.
exactly that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So 40 years old and up, everyone's smoking a lot more than they used to. The kids, not at all. They don't give a shit. They'd rather do Molly and other stuff anyway than to smoke
Molly?
pot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what's Molly?
MDMA, ecstasy.
It's scary. It's scary, Noran.
What's scary?
It's scary about all these the knowledge that you have of these.
It's not a lot of
drugs.
knowledge.
He's
trust me.
informed.
Okay.
It's not that difficult.
I'm not doing ketamine.
Oh, good to know.
He's the-
like Elon.
I'm relieved.
He's the king of Las Vegas. So.
Yeah, I mean that side of the table. The drugs.
Nuren does what he's always
Yeah,
done. He sniffs glue.
There you go.
Okay.
And paint.
Tinder.
Not as effective though.
Okay, so
Since they've gone to latex
Okay.
only.
so why haven't we? So we're discussing why we haven't taken this step as a society.
We have tacitly, like I
Well,
said.
wait. When you say we haven't,
Our society still does not. Treat
no,
this
you're
as a-
talking about North American society.
North American society. Yeah.
No
but
courage.
You know what? That no one's really cracking down on this stuff.
Well, first of all, it's legal in certain U.S. states.
yeah,
it?
exactly. In Vegas,
Nevada, well, the state of Nevada.
Yeah, but very,
Yeah.
very, very highly regulated.
yeah,
But it'll have to be regulated wherever it's
yeah,
legalized.
you can go to the chicken coop or whatever they call it.
Yeah, I know, but in Nevada you have zones.
Penthouse.
It's only permitted in certain zones. We're talking about when you legalize it, it's just it's an activity that is allowed.
Well, to his
period.
point, it's the door is open, and there are certain jurisdictions that
Well,
do have it.
It's like gambling. It's only legal in certain zones, areas. you know,
Okay.
So you do the same thing.
Okay.
You can't open a casino down the road here.
So do you think if a politician would actually put this on their platform, they
No,
would,
there's no courage.
would it be a popular commitment for a politician to
Well,
take?
listen, they've already done it. Like I said, it's if you're not cracking down on it in any big way with your law enforcement, then in a sense you're kind of turning a blind eye to it. So no, they're not putting legislation that says, yes, this is it. But in the meantime, you've got social workers who go out and make sure that things are okay. And, the thing that they're trying to tamp down on is
The abuse.
Is the abuse, exactly, is the human trafficking aspect of it. But if it's just, a woman who wants to make a living, selling her ass, so to speak, then what's wrong with that?
Male
or a guy,
male or female.
or a guy, exactly, doing the same thing. And okay, as long as there's no harm, as long as there's no violence, as long as there's, unless it's mutual or, approved of. Or
So
whatever,
I think the issue for any politician or aspiring politician today is that there are higher level priorities that constituents want to hear about.
Good
Exactly.
point.
Very
Good
true.
point.
But otherwise, I think if anything, it would portray the politician who has the courage to bring it up as perhaps being less of a hypocrite than his peers.
Yeah. Well, politics is there's no whore like a politician, right? So in the end, it's almost the same thing. Yeah. There's a kinship, I guess, from politicians to prostitutes.
So politics is legalized prostitution.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
In a sense, yeah.
Good point.
So. So it's an interesting topic because morality comes into it. Certain people.
So why does morality come into it?
Because people stand up on their high horse and try and get people. Religion, for example, is a way for people to use their position to tell other people what to do. So yeah, if you stand up and you say if you're a good Christian or if you're a good Muslim or if you're a good Jew, you're not going to do this. It's a morality police kind of thing. But it's bullshit in a sense, because humanity is humanity and our urges are our urges. And if there's a way that you can do this thing safely and make it transactional.
So everything you've just said to me is back to hypocrisy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if religion, if they're against it, and some of their people go for it, then they haven't done their job.
Yeah.
So.
Well, hypocrisy is rampant,
that's
right?
it.
I mean, it's everywhere, and yeah, it's part of it. That's why I think we're all for it in terms of there's nothing negative about making it legal and putting together some rules and regulations that are going to keep everyone safe and keep everyone healthy. If you can do that, then I mean, Europe's been doing it for dozens of years, tens of years, if not more, right? So.
How about the cost-benefit analysis? Would governments reap enough benefits for the cost of regulating? And
You would think.
Well, first of all, I don't think that you need to. The tendency is to over-regulate. So you don't want to over-regulate.
No.
Some regulations would be required.
Yeah.
2 condoms
But
instead of 1.
Don't go overboard. I think the costs to government are minimal. Think of what the costs have been to governments that, for instance, have implemented systems to track what was previously under-the-table payments in the restaurant,
Right.
in the food industry.
Yeah.
Clearly, the analysis there suggested that while the cost was substantial, the financial benefits would far outweigh the cost.
in that case, yeah, it was a no-brainer.
So to me, prostitution is an activity that is far more rampant than most societies are willing to acknowledge. And economically, there can only be upside for the government because they would be collecting tax dollars on an activity which today is tax-free.
From the entrepreneur, from the sex workers, everybody, I know.
So what happens when the robots come in? All these Japanese robots that look, 100% live and real and feels real and everything. I think that's going to take away from the.
But so now you have to look at under the model you're describing. Mm-hmm. Is it an ownership model or a rental model?
You can lease it.
Well, lease.
You got to make sure it's cleaned out, though.
So lease. I'm thinking more rent than lease.
Okay.
So it'll either be ownership.
Mm-hmm. It's
in which case you will pay the tax upon purchasing the good. And if it's on a rental basis, then you will pay the tax on the service every time you consume that particular service.
But that's not prostitution.
And that would be good.
That's an
Oh,
interesting. That's an
that's-
interesting.
That's not
thought.
prostitution.
Because it doesn't involve a human being.
Exactly.
So I think the lines are going to get awfully blurred.
if it's a goat, is it prostitution?
Why are you looking at me when you ask that question?
It's a fetish.
Because you're Greek.
Don't go there, you prick. No, actually, if you were well informed as you claim to be, it would be sheep that you would be bringing up, not goats.
You know, Aki, this is one of those instances where by correcting Naran, you're not doing yourself any favors.
You validated me by correcting me. Thank you.
In the ditch together.
Not bad.
To answer his question, if it's a robot, it's not prostitution, but it's a fetish.
Well put. Well distinction. Good distinction.
So
Okay. It's
and
interesting.
it's kind of good because
Yeah.
you'll pay sales taxes when you buy
Yeah.
it. You know,
Okay.
then there's maintenance.
Because you could do the same thing about sex toys and vibrators and so forth.
All it is a huge sex toy. You're right.
Yeah, but you can't put her into the dishwasher.
You put yours in the dishwasher. I'm not going to go out for dinner.
Thankfully, I don't have any toys. Thank you very much. But isn't that what women do usually?
I
Put it
don't
in the
know.
dishwasher.
Cringe and cringe.
Hey, this is only what I've heard. Okay, I don't know.
You seem to know an awful lot on this subject, Naran.
I don't know. They have these new dishwashers with special racks for that.
Yeah, the ones for the utensils.
The
Yeah,
utensils.
we'll send you the links.
But you know what? If it's robots, the religious zealots, whatever, they'll be happy
Why?
because it's not a human. So there's no morality there.
Neither.
There is no morality with the religious zealots.
Yeah.
It's hypocrisy
Yeah,
to the
you're
nth
right.
degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
They'll find something wrong with that.
So let me change it up and ask you a question. Now.
Again,
Okay. Which species are we talking about now?
No. So if you were inclined, because no one around this table is obviously going to be going and soliciting prostitution, or at least I don't think so, or at least I won't admit it. But if
Or become a prostitute.
exactly. But if you were so inclined, and say all of us are single and not engaged with anyone, or not have an active partner, and you wanted to seek this out, would you rather have a human partner or an electronic?
Oh, come on. Of course. Human.
Okay.
yeah, human.
come on.
Neither.
Okay. Well, all right. Okay. Holier than thou.
The morality.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
holier than
It's
thou.
not morality.
But-
I
but I don't think
from an early age,
Okay.
I never believed in paying for sex. I don't.
No, I don't think that's what he meant.
If-
Or did you mean that?
If your brain got to the point
It
where
wouldn't.
But no,
Okay. All right.
think-
Well, so there you go.
It wouldn't. Trust
I
me.
think your question should have been for companionship. Do you want a robot or a human? Then it's a human. But
How about a dog?
well, that too. But no prostitution. Like Pat said.
yeah, but there's guys that go to prostitutes for company, for
Then you have
interaction.
Seriously.
Yeah.
To discuss politics.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no. Wait a minute. Now,
So
hold it.
actually, I'd seen
for
where was it?
companionship.
Companionship.
I forget her name. There was an Asian woman who did, I think they were 1 hour long episodes on CNN on a variety of different topics. And one of the things she tackled were sugar babies.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And it was surprising to me that many of those relationships did not involve intimacy, like sexual favors.
I have a friend who's got a sugar baby.
Okay.
She's married.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which
So just for companionship.
it's in this case, it's also intimacy.
Okay.
Okay, well, no. So look, I'm saying that
Yeah.
in the same way that there are
Yeah.
sugar daddies, sugar babies,
So is
Who-
being
who
a
have
sugar
relationships-
baby a prostitute? Is a sugar baby a prostitute?
Of course.
well, what? Okay, you know what? That's an interesting question.
That
Let's
is an
take a
interesting
step back. What is prostitution?
Okay. So is it money for sex or is it money for companionship?
Money for sex.
Okay. So what
So-
if it's money for companionship? is it any less offensive from a morality perspective?
Yeah, I think it's the same league.
That's like being an escort.
Yeah.
So let's say you want to go to a party,
Yeah.
and you want to go to a good-looking woman.
Yeah.
So you pay her just to accompany you.
Okay.
That's fine. I don't think that's.
So one is fine and the other isn't.
Oh, it's not prostitution.
That's right. There's no intimacy.
There's no intimacy.
So in other words,
Physical
you're
intimacy.
saying
Physical
that
intimacy.
the word prostitution
Yeah.
should be used only in the context where there are sexual favors
Yes.
being exchanged for
Yes.
money.
I agree.
I agree
Oh,
completely.
that's what I thought.
Okay, sorry. What if the two parties are married?
Then,
What's your point?
yeah, I don't get you.
Doesn't change anything.
So it's still prostitution.
No. Actually, I would argue that
There are men and women
Yeah, okay. Maybe I didn't understand the question.
who exchange sexual favors for money and then reach a point where they decide that they're going to marry the person because the financial windfall will be greater. So one very, very well-known case.
That's very unusual what you're talking about.
Really?
I'm not following.
So
you. Go ahead.
Jackie O.
And
Aristotle.
Onassis. Okay, what's your
So that was a contract where she agreed to marry him
right?
in exchange for, essentially, it was a financial transaction.
Okay, like Melania and
And it
Donald.
was, well, I don't know, but this one was
Donald.
well documented
Right?
where she married him.
Yeah.
And in exchange for material and financial comforts, she agreed to sleep with him. I think it was stipulated it was a minimum of X times a month.
Okay.
But it's a transaction. In other words, it's
there's a
really
lot of that.
sexual
No,
favors
but I think
for money.
I think you're also in that example. You're also like underplaying, the emotional relationship.
No,
that
there was no emotional relationship.
She was attracted to him as well. There wasn't attraction.
She was attracted to his money.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
that's
big
an easy
wad.
criticism to throw out there. But I'm not sure. I think it's more
Okay,
complicated than that.
there are relationships between a client and a prostitute, and it could go either way, male, female, where they develop some emotional feelings or attachments.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So then it changes.
I'm asking the question. It may be an exception, but I'm asking the question.
What's the question?
Is that still prostitution?
Dominic and Aki said that in order for prostitution to be prostitution,
You need sex.
there has to be
Sex.
sexual favors in exchange for money. And I simply asked the question, if that's the case, does the definition apply in a context where two individuals either are married or get married, where the exchange is
Yeah.
purely,
Morally, yes.
okay, morally, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm with you on this one. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Once they're married, it's a different arrangement.
But we're saying it's
Well, there's
not.
no sex at that point.
We're saying it's not. We're saying to us it's the same.
Well, I think they have a legal standing. When they're married, they have a legal standing.
No, but you're still a whore if you do
That's
that for
okay.
the money.
You can interpret it that way.
Yeah,
But I mean,
both male or female, you're a whore if you do it for
Most
that.
sugar babies, there's intimacy.
Okay. Yeah, of course, it's part of it.
Yeah.
So some sort of intimacy, whether it is some sort of physical touch.
So okay, okay.
So they're whores.
Rupert Murdoch,
Okay.
when he's dating these 20-year-olds,
Okay.
Bill Belichick.
and
Exactly.
and well, no, because he's not
Stole
married.
Dominic's thunder.
Stick with me. Rupert Murdoch.
Yes.
He dates these 20-something-year-olds,
Yes.
and he showers them with material and financial gifts
Maybe P.
in exchange for
Yes.
favors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are those women prostitutes?
Yes.
They're whores, yeah.
Okay. He marries one of them.
Yes.
She was a
Does
whore.
the definition change? She's no longer a whore?
No. Now she's a married whore.
Exactly.
yeah, to me it changes.
So she's still, so to
It's
your
sim-
point, and I agree, she's still a prostitute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you say yeah. A moment ago, you were saying no.
No, I
But
don't-
I'm not down on prostitutes. I don't look
Neither
down
am-
on prostitutes.
Neither am I. I'm not passing judgment. I'm
exactly.
looking
No.
for a
No.
definition.
Yeah, a hoe is a hoe. It's okay. It's okay to be a hoe.
No. When look, regard.
Wait, here comes the morality
Right.
police.
So
That's you.
that's you.
No, he acts it. I am it.
Look, when there's a marriage, it changes the circumstances of the relationship. In my opinion,
Why?
because there's a legal issue now. There's a legal standing that they have as a married couple.
How convenient.
So,
Well, okay, it is convenient, but it's convenient. But
the example he gave, by the way, I didn't know that about Jackie O and Aristotle.
well, I think it's an oversimplification. But yes,
But-
there's a
but
lot of it.
it's
A lot of what he said is
but
true.
I think
Okay.
I think at the outset if the relationship is between a guy and a whore, she's a whore all the way through.
Okay.
and vice versa.
Without being judgmental, I'm being very sarcastic.
Well,
So
I don't look down on whores.
No.
I know the word is terrible.
Look,
why
and there's a
is it
stigma.
terrible?
The word whore is terrible.
Okay, but who are we?
So we're going to come up with a politically correct term
No,
now.
I'm not.
Oh,
I'm
not-
just, but I'm just
no,
saying when I use the
no.
word, I'm not looking
Drum
down
roll.
on the person.
Yeah,
But
that's
you're
all.
not complimenting them either.
Okay, look, guys, this is what I'm. Can we maybe consider that a relationship starts, that way, the way Pat described it, where it was a relationship where sex for money was the main, the centerpiece of the relationship.
Right.
Okay. Then they get married.
Okay.
Okay. So
What an idiot.
Which
they
one?
get married, right? There's a marriage. Is it too much to assume that the relationship and the feelings that they have for each other have changed?
Yes.
Their mind, their state of mind has changed. Is it too much to?
Once a whore, always a whore.
Exactly.
Well, okay. Well, that's where
Exactly.
I'm not quick to pull the trigger then on that.
Oh, you don't pull the trigger that quickly, do you?
I totally
Make it
agree.
last.
Totally agree with Duran. A whore. Look, a whore.
Well,
is
no.
Once a whore, always
Listen,
a
if
whore.
your morality is such that you're accepting money for sex, and there's
Exactly.
nothing wrong with
You
it. I'm not
start
gonna
that
look
way,
down.
but people evolve.
Okay, Aki, the porn stars that are
No.
married, and many are, do they stop being porn stars?
That's their job.
No, that's their job. It's their profession.
Okay.
There you go. So you got to be a special guy to be able to put up with that.
So at that point, you stop saying, you start calling them an actor.
Yes, I know, but it's one level of sex when you're accepting money for it. It's another level of sex when you're married, in my opinion.
But if you marry
Yeah.
for that
the
premise.
financial rewards,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then
what
you're a
difference
whore.
does it make?
I don't know. I'm just keeping the door open to the possibility that people can actually, grow closer together, and the circumstances of the relationship can change. That's all.
Actually,
The more money there is, the more likely it
That's all.
is.
Look,
the sexier you look.
She's in love. But she's in love with his money.
Exactly. She's
Or,
in love with
or
the
vice
lifestyle.
versa.
Yeah.
And she's in love with the.
Okay,
or
but then
they're
again,
in love with
that's the peanut gallery, just judging people.
Who? What are you talking about?
Well, the example that you gave, I mean, you think that a relationship that started the way we described it and then winds up in a marriage, nothing in your mind changes. That it's still a relationship of a client and a prostitute.
Yeah, because
And I'm saying, well, no, I think marriage does sometimes
Okay, you know what?
change the
litmus
relationship.
test is if he loses all his money and now he has to live
Okay,
in a
I don't know.
in a modest apartment, and she stays with him. And
No, he or she will be gone long before
Correct.
the funds are
And most-
exhausted.
exactly. Well, that's the litmus test. If that's what happens,
Right, and if that
and they
doesn't
stay
happen,
together,
and if that doesn't
then
happen,
it was true love.
Okay,
If it wasn't-
I'm just saying, just keeping an open mind, the way I like to do in these conversations,
Right.
that people sometimes will surprise, and there's other elements that are at play.
I'm sure it's happened in this planet once or twice, but I don't think it's something that happens on a regular
Exactly.
basis.
The exception to the rule.
Yeah, exactly, guys. Everything, anything is possible.
Yeah.
It's just the probability comes down
Yeah.
to a very small, amount. So,
very,
yeah.
very small. Yeah. Totally agree with you.
So, I mean, we're all in favor of legalizing. We don't have any issue with the morality of it or not, because if consenting adults want to do this and exchange money for bodily fluids, no problem.
Well put.
I don't see why we have chosen to frown upon this particular activity.
It's morality. It's the morality.
But as we discussed earlier, that morality is it's bullshit.
hypocritical.
It's totally hypocritical.
Yeah, absolutely. So putting that aside, if you put that aside and you look at it as a transactional thing, well, it's my body. I can do what I want with it. If I'm going to have someone paint my body different colors because it turns them on, go ahead. If someone wants to whatever, go ahead. It's my body and my right to do it.
Yeah, I just find it interesting that once again our species has elected to look at certain activities either as art or a form of activity that is perfectly acceptable or should be well accepted or highly regarded, versus one that is not. So you pose nude for a famous artist who's going to paint you, and it's art.
Yeah.
But you pose nude for a photographer, and your picture is going to be in like a girly magazine.
It's smut.
It's smut. It's like, really? What's the difference?
None. And I think
It's all in the interpretation.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's the morality police.
In the end, as society, we always celebrate when a buyer and a seller get together. Whatever it
A
is.
successful transaction.
Exactly. So,
Only if it's taxed.
well,
Well, no, then the government celebrates.
exactly. But in this case, that's what we move on.
No, that's what we're saying, guys. So we're okay with taxation. I guess Aki is loving this discussion.
There's been a few discussions of late, where I can see you guys coming down in favor of some regulation. Nice to have you.
No,
see the
I
light.
think the fact that he thinks you're happy with the conversation is more money for the government to waste.
Exactly.
So, but it's interesting because going from left to right around this table, in terms of mentality as well. It's funny because even the most right wing.
Can you guess who that might be?
Slightly right of Mussolini here.
but
also in
only
favor.
slightly.
So from a social perspective, we seem to be left enough from a social perspective to not be so your rightedness is not morality driven. It's financially driven.
Yeah.
Mostly. And that's an interesting, difference that comes out.
What are you suggesting?
Because a lot of people in the States, like when you look at right wing, like real right wing, they mix the morality and the church and
Okay.
the bullshit.
Yeah.
So we talk repeatedly about hypocrisy.
That's the hypocrisy.
I think hypocrisy is at its greatest height at the margins.
Yeah.
Both right and left.
Yeah.
I agree.
So conservative or liberal margins
Yeah.
I agree.
are the most hypocritical of all.
So thankfully he's left of the margin.
Because I don't give religion that much
Wait.
weight,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I am religious, but I don't give it weight.
Yeah.
I think it's not a priority compared to other things.
Well, I'll say there's other important distinction. You're not a hypocrite.
Yeah, exactly.
Your beliefs, whatever they may be, and regardless of whether others agree or not, are your firmly held beliefs.
Sure.
It's not an act. It's not a show. It's not something you say
Exactly.
No,
for the sake of trying to create, or portray a certain image of yourself.
No,
Yeah.
Right? It's what you really believe.
what you see is what
And that to me is an important distinction.
Yeah. It's not bullshit.
no.
It's not what's the
Well,
word when you're doing it for an audience. Anyway, I can't come up with the word right now, but yeah.
Well, I think hypocrisy is a good word. I think that's the worst thing anybody can be.
Yeah.
Is an hypocrite.
So it's interesting. I just found it interesting because
Yeah.
we've got from left to right around this table, and everyone seems to be 100% okay with this. So
Well, it's because, I don't believe in win-win situations, but this is one of the close ones.
yeah,
Why do you say close?
Well, because it's a win-win. There's really no drawbacks. We tried to come up with a few. I came up with one, and it wasn't a good one.
Yeah, so it's not even a question of close.
Yeah.
It's
so it's a no-brainer that
Exactly.
prostitution should be legalized.
Exactly.
is
there's
what we're saying.
there's no downside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's no downside. None.
Like I said, I came up with one that wasn't a very good one.
I can't even remember.
Yeah, neither do I. Because it wasn't very good. No, I said that
It may be that young girls
young girls,
Yeah.
may say, "Oh, here's a
We agreed on
legitimate
that.
a legitimate path."
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
The example that we set.
But I totally agree with what Pat said.
Yeah, it's up
Those
to
12, 13-year-olds, regardless, are going to think it. So
Yeah.
It's,
There we go. So
I think,
it's an interesting.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
an
I
interesting result.
Yeah. Let's legalize it.
Let's legalize it.
Romeos for legalized prostitution. That
There you
really
go.
rolls off the tongue.
We'll get you a T-shirt, Aki.
And a mug.
You can
please.
wear it proudly.
And the sheep.
You have been corrected, my friend. My job is done.
All right, guys. Before we deteriorate any further, or the conversation deteriorates any further, we'll wrap it up. Final thoughts.
Well, first of all, on a day-to-day basis, we're deteriorating, but we still look good.
Speak for yourself.
The only thing I'll say is that the morality has nothing to do with this issue.
Yeah.
Should be a healthcare issue, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep, agreed.
It's good social policy. It makes sense. Let's do it and follow some of the other
Had to get social policy.
the
in there.
other
All right.
places, the other countries in the world who do it properly. We should be in the same boat,
Perfect.
And hopefully that boat is not sinking.
and hopefully.
Okay. All right, guys. Great conversation. We'll look forward to the next one.
Sounds good.
Thanks for
Thank you.
joining us.
Whores out.